we are live. Just let me
Yep.
check. Yes, we are live on
Welcome
Facebook as
everyone
well.
to another episode, an interesting one.
Yes, definitely. It is going to be one of the most interesting episodes which we have done till date. So, today
Life
we are
indeed.
going to conduct our 44th episode. So, welcome to our 44th episode of Life Indeed podcast. Thank you so much. And, today it's definitely going to be very inspiring, very interesting because a guest which we have today, he himself is, we are also looking forward to learn and understand from his life experiences. So, just to give you a brief about Life Indeed podcast. So, me and Tosif, we both know each other from last more than 3 years. Ironically, we have never met in person, Roger.
Wow.
We just both know each other through LinkedIn. Actually, we knew each other from LinkedIn, and that is how we become very good friends. And we shared a lot of common beliefs, a lot of common things. And there was a time when we were discussing about something, and we realized that we both have certain life experiences which has shaped us as a human being who we are today. And that's when we thought that why don't we share our life experiences with the world and inspire other people. So that is how we started this podcast. But after just 2 3 episodes only, a lot of people have started requesting that they also want to share their life stories. So that is how we have started interviewing other
Yeah.
people as well. And today we are doing this 44th episode. We just don't believe that we have reached to this number. And we just started, and that's how it happened. And a lot of good people like you who received and who gave us that permission or approval that they also want to share their amazing life stories. So, Tosif, please talk about something about Roger and please introduce him.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure. First of all, I want to thank Roger for accepting our invitation. In continuation to what Piyush said about Life Indeed podcast, I think as Roger also believes that the most successful person on the planet is the storyteller. And I think, our Life Indeed, the essence and ethos of Life Indeed podcast is that's where we started, this podcast from. So, as Piyush said, we started talking about our own experiences, the vulnerabilities, something that life, those life taught us, those perspectives. We started sharing those perspectives with everyone, but we soon realized that it is better to, because our experience is limited, it is better to invite people from all across the world to and let them encourage them to share their own stories, and this way we will more number of people will be able to connect to us and learn from each other. And today, I mean, in fact, we would have not thought that we would reach to this level.
Absolutely.
I think we followed that Japanese Kaizen success strategy wherein do not look at the perfection. Let's believe into making small contribution and let's
Yes.
reach towards, the end goal. Today, in this 44th episode, I am going to introduce every one of you with someone who has been with me on LinkedIn from last 1.5 year, if I'm not wrong, and we have been interacting with each other's content quite pretty often. And one thing which has always intrigued me about Roger, that he is a person who is always there on his toe to create content which help people and impact people. You know, talking about Roger, I think it will be very less of me talking about him because he's that kind of a personality. He is the CEO and the founder of American Real Media, on which he actually hosts people from all across the world. He has interviewed a lot of world leaders, and you name them, he had interviewed them. And
Absolutely.
he also is the founder of Kind magazine. I've been very intrigued about that thing. He let you write your first book very very comfortably. If you have a story, he has a process through which he can help you to write your first story. So list is long. I was actually scrutinizing his LinkedIn profile, and I also got to know that he has worked on very very senior positions into different organizations. And but somehow he has found his passion that we would definitely like to talk about during this course of time. So, without a further ado, I would like to welcome my friend Roger on Life Indeed podcast. Welcome, Roger.
Welcome, Roger.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, both of you. And first of all, congratulations. 44 episodes. That's not easy to achieve. We all know it's about consistency, it's about showing up. And if you don't do that every single week, you won't hit 44 and then 88 and then 200. So, congratulations to you both.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Roger.
So, Roger, usually we start our podcast with this very simple question that can you please let us know, can you please explain to our audience that what exactly you do or you are doing at this stage of your life?
I'll try. so, I would say that at this stage of my life, I'm taking on more than I ever have in my life, and I think it's because as humans, we try to go to the furthest extent, and then when we get there, we see that we could still yet do more, right? So I am all about efficiency in this day and age, and I don't know how long I'll be able to sustain this type of work, if you want to call it work, but honestly, I try my very best to make every waking moment, every minute of every day productive. Now, that
Wow,
being said, we do
Amazing.
need downtime, right? We need family time, we need
absolutely.
resting, we need meditation, we need all those things. But by and large, I would say for the first time ever, and this has to do with a lot of the people I've interviewed on my podcast, great leaders, and me asking them the same very question, like how do you do this? How do you stay so busy, and how do you excel to the next level? And it all really comes down to one thing, and that is really being a student of your calendar, really filling
Mm,
up that white space that
Hmm.
that is there for so much of us, but filling it up productively, and not taking for granted when there is a time slot. Maybe it's an hour or two. What will you actually do in that time? Will it be productive, or will it be somewhat lazy? So I would say, in everything I'm doing today, it's really trying to make literally every hour, every minute of every day as productive as I can.
Amazing.
thank you so much, Roger. And I think you nicely articulated this to everybody, like being a student to your calendar. I think
Yes.
it's one of a piece of advice that all of us should follow. So, Roger, you usually start with one interesting question. So, I would like to take you back to your childhood, and I would like you to explain to our audience like how you started, where you belong to, a little bit of that, and then we would slowly and gradually move on to your like school and
So
college life, then
I'll
your professional
I'll
life.
add up I'll add up I would love to add one perspective. So when you were a child, have you ever thought that you would become this person who you are today?
Well, look, yes, I think we all aspire, when we're children and when we're teens, what am I going to do when I grow up? And I don't know. I had a lot of aspirations. I actually wanted to become a professional athlete. I wanted to become a
Oh,
professional baseball
Hmm.
player, and I worked very hard at it. But as life goes, you get to a certain point, no matter what it is in life, where you just know, are you talented enough to go in that direction,
right.
or do you need to look at something else? And I was fortunate that and when I got to college, I played a couple of years of baseball in what we call junior college here, and then I went on to a 4 year school and tried to play for the top college. And
Hmm.
the coach, took me aside and said, "Look, you're a very good athlete." He says, "But you just don't quite have what it takes to be at the Division
Oh,
One level." He
Hmm.
said,
okay.
"But don't take that personally." He says, "It's okay. It's such a small percentage of people that could go from high school to junior college to Division One. So just look for something else, and it could be in baseball, it might be in management, it might be doing something else." So that really helped open my eyes. His name was Coach Jack Dunn. I'll never forget him, and I needed him to tell me that at that time, so I could start to think about a different path.
Okay. Okay. But then, Roger, it must have hit hard to you that you are not able to go to the next level. So how did you like manage? Because when you are a kid or when you are a teenager, it's difficult to handle such kind of rejection or a failure, which we can say. So how did you manage, or how you were able to manage your emotions when you had to go through that situation?
Well, I was fortunate. From a young age, I was surrounded by wonderful people and wonderful mentors. People that took the
Okay.
time to pull me aside. Whether it was a coach or whether it was a guidance counselor or a family member. I've been fortunate enough to have those people in my life, but also seeking out mentors. I think
Okay.
mentorship is something. It's a give and take. Sometimes I
Hmm.
have mentors today, and then I mentor
Of
people.
course.
So
Yeah.
Of
it's
course.
a give and take. Sometimes you're the student, sometimes you're the teacher, right? So I was very fortunate that I had those people around me to carry me through and not to get down. Of course, it was not, great to hear at the moment, but then you start to focus on other things, knowing that I have my life ahead of me. What do I
Okay.
want to do? So I was always a person of, and still today, where if I set my mind to something and I wanted to go after it, I did, and I did it to the best of my ability at the time.
Right.
So Roger, I was listening to one of the interview of Shah Rukh Khan today. As you know, he's one of the famous Bollywood star. So he was saying that he personally believed that your talent can give you this much of success, but your circumstances plays a very very vital role in who you want to become in the future. So I think it quite resonate with what you said, that you have been fortunate to be surrounded with those kind of people. But
Absolutely.
there are many people who are directionless, who doesn't have like those kind of people who could guide them, who could give them direction. Okay, you, for example, someone said to you, your coach said to you that this is not meant for you, you should do this and do that. Any advice for those people who doesn't know where to go,
Yeah, absolutely. Look,
especially in the childhood?
yes, I think from a mindset standpoint, it's really important not to play a victim role, right? And it's hard not to
Hmm.
do. So
Mhm.
if something tragic happens, when you're young, or you don't make that team, or your grades aren't that good, or whatever it may be, it's the easy way is to soak in our sorrows, right? To feel sorry for ourselves. So
Hmm.
I think the earlier you could figure that out in life, and believe me, I mean, there's times that I still, try to overcome this, and many adults do this every single day, and that's the way they live their life as a victim of circumstance. When the reality, the way I look at it, we create our own reality. The reality
Right.
isn't created for us. So when you wake up every single day, you have choices that you're going to make. What are you
Right.
going to do when you get out of bed? Are you going to give it your all? Are you going to show up with a good attitude? Are you going to help someone today? So all these things that we do every single day, they're all choices. And if you play that victim role, and it doesn't matter how young you are. Our son's 15. We talk about it all the time, and I've been talking to him about it, since he was young, as well as my daughter. Are you going to play that victim role and feel sorry for yourself, or are you going to pick yourself up, learn from whatever happened, and make it better, make your life better, because you control it all here and here within your heart
Right.
and
Mm.
mind. 100%, it's controlled by you, and you could set your own circumstances. You can make your own circumstances instead of letting them, come to you.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So,
Amazing.
Roger, did you have any specific incident or any like kind of experiences which help you to develop this kind of mindset, or how did you were able to understand that now I need to go to the next level, or I need to work upon my mindset? Because as a teenager, you are you don't have that kind of you don't think in that way that I have to do
Yeah.
something purposeful. When you are a teenager, you just want to do something big, you just want to achieve a success, name, fame, and money, that kind of thing. So
Yeah.
any specific advice for that?
No, great question. I think for me, it was three things. It was family, having a solid foundation of family, however that
Right.
may be for someone. Two,
Hmm.
faith, having a very solid foundation of faith. Grew
Okay.
up going to Catholic school for most of my childhood, and then I eventually went into public school. But having that foundation of faith, and then third, I had a cousin who took me under his wing, and he
Oh.
was all about mindset. Now, I didn't know this at the time, but he would give me these cassette discs or cassette tapes.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
Cassettes.
yes, and it was a gentleman called Dennis Watley, and
Okay.
he was all about mindset. And he says, listen, listen to these tapes and do what you will with them. So for most of my teenage years, all the way into college, I would listen to these tapes, and it was
Wow.
all about a positive mindset. Expect the unexpected. All these things. So if I didn't have that in my life at that time, I certainly wouldn't have had the mindset early on to be able to do some of the things that I did. So again, we as adults, it's our duty to be able to, if there's
Hmm.
information, to let the youngsters know, whether they're our children or our family members, give them the resources to help them make their own decisions, even if it's something they don't want to do. At
Hmm.
least present them with the idea so they can make that decision for themselves. So if I didn't have those three
Absolutely.
things, then certainly my path would have been much different.
So this same thought also inspired me to become or get into coaching and mentoring, that you become a mentor which you never had, you know. So that's what, your brother who
Yeah.
help you, and that's what I think we all should do as an adult, with our kids, with our teenagers, so that they can develop that mindset at a very young age, and that's how they can start their journey at a very early stage. Otherwise, there are so many millions of people who just keep on living for 30, 35 years, 40 years, and after that they start living with those poisonous regrets, that I wanted to do this thing, that thing, but somehow they were not able to do. I mean, that's something very, very important. As an adult, we need to take that responsibility. So thank
Oh,
you
I
so
agree.
much for sharing that wonderful advice. Yeah, Tosif.
Yeah. So I think great piece of advice, and all the people who are listening to us, they're eager, and there are so many people who have already joined us. So thank you so much, everyone, and who's listening to us. A lot of people are saying hi, Roger. Hi, hello,
Hello.
everyone. So thank you so much, guys. Keep constantly watching us, because we are going to designate 10 minutes of time at the end of this podcast for you all, so that you can ask questions to Roger, to us, and we would love to answer your questions. So
Right.
Roger, I was, as I said, that I was looking your LinkedIn profile, just trying to know a bit more. Though I know you from last 1.5 year, but when today, I was just like looking at your profile, and I saw that you have been working into different organizations. You worked on very senior positions as well. Then I could see that transition to becoming a mentor and coach. So, what was that one thing that actually ignited that spark, that okay, I'm not going to do a 9 to 5 anymore, I'm going to be a mentor. From now, I'm going to coach people how to write their first book and share their story to the world. So what was
How
that one
this
thing?
journey started.
Yeah.
How this journey started.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely tell you that, but I do have to say I still do work 9 to 5, so
Oh,
Oh, that's
I'm doing
that's
both, right? And
that's
that's why,
that's really nice.
from a productivity standpoint, I work for what we call in the
Then you're
state.
going to inspire me, Roger.
I'm sorry.
I said that you're going to inspire me more, because I'm also
Well,
doing
no,
9 to
I think
5.
it's important, right? Because I
Yeah.
work for a wonderful organization. It's in the States, we call it a credit union, which is similar
Okay.
to
okay.
a bank. The difference between a credit union and a bank is a credit union is nonprofit. So
Okay.
do
Okay.
is they take all the earnings,
Mhm.
that they make, and they reduce the fees for the members, or they zero out fees, and they
Mhm.
Okay.
provide better interest rates. So the organization that I'm a part of reflects my actual values, and that's
Wow.
why
Hmm.
I'm able to do what I do, because
It
it's not
doesn't feel like 9 to 5.
it doesn't feel
That's
like 9 to 5, and it's not the corporate America that I've been involved with in
Hmm.
the past. So I just
Hmm.
wanted to make that one note because it is important. I don't want to
Absolutely, it is
put out
important.
something
Yes,
that I'm not
Of
doing.
course, of course.
absolutely. So you brought a very beautiful point, actually, Roger. So nowadays, a lot of people have started believing that if I need to follow my passion or I need to do something, then I have to leave my job.
Yeah,
But I think you are a classic example that it's just not about leaving your job. It's about, increasing your productivity, increasing your efficiency. And even while doing your job, you can follow your passion, you can help people, you can create that difference, you
A
can
hundred,
impact the world. Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And but I do think one crucial thing is that if you do have a job, that during the hours that you're working, of course, our minds wander, but you must remain focused on that job. That
absolutely.
entity is paying you for your time.
Yes.
As a leader, as a responsible human, you must dedicate that time to
Yes.
that organization because had they not been supporting you, you can't then on the side work on
Absolutely.
your. So, and I also think it's important. The CEO of our organization, I actually interviewed him. His name is Ty Muse. When I
Okay.
came to work for the
Oh,
organization, he pulled me aside and he said, Roger, he says, I'm so happy you're here. He says, but don't lose your passion for American Real. He knew how much I loved it. And he said, keep doing that. Keep doing that on the side.
Wow.
Well, you're welcome here too. So you can have both, right? So again, how
wow.
are you going to make the most of your time every single day? So if you're working from 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever it may be, that's your time that you're giving to that organization. But there's
True.
still a lot of hours in the day. I get up at
Yes.
4:30,
Lot.
5 o'clock in the morning. I do a couple of hours of work before I go into the office, and then I have the evenings to do and the whole
Fantastic.
weekends. So there's still a lot
Absolutely.
of time throughout the week to be productive and to be able to do your side hustle, if you will, in order to enjoy both.
You
Absolutely.
stole my words, Roger. That's what I try to do.
That's great.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's really amazing. So, Roger, please share something about your, story, that how you started and
Yeah.
what was the first step which you took and
Sure.
reached to this level.
See, the
Yeah.
reason, the reasons. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you, Piyush and Roger. The reason
Yeah.
why I have asked this question by mistake is because your identity and your passion has outweighed your identity in 9 to 5. So I'm sorry to say that,
That's
but
okay.
Roger,
And you are actually a lucky person who is working with a company who is actually aligned with your
absolutely.
vision, mission, and your passion as well. So it's something which is very precious.
And that's a good point because I think, and I was there myself, so I fully admit this. Um, I think most people are afraid or have fear of putting their passion in front of anything, especially if you're getting paid from an organization.
Yes.
But that's a choice. I mean, if from a social media standpoint, from my standpoint, I love to share people's stories. I love to help people write their books. I love what I do, and I'm not afraid to put that out there because there's nothing, that's not genuine about it. I'm not trying to, you know, pull the wool over anyone's
You're not doing
eyes.
anything
Yeah,
unethical.
that's right.
That's what.
That's right.
That's what. That's what.
So you
I,
can do both, but it's taking that first step of having that courage to say, this is what I'd love to do. Just as you gentlemen are doing with your podcast, it's a wonderful thing, and it's okay to do both.
I think, Roger, you are going to inspire million of people because if I'm talking about India, where most of the people are afraid to put their passion before that job or whatever they are doing to make money actually. And definitely, your words are going to
Going to be
inspire a
very
lot of people.
encouraging.
No,
Yeah.
and you bring up a great point because I think the balance is with whatever you're doing on the side, if it has to be bigger than money, right? It has to be money can't be
Yes.
the reason. So
Absolutely.
I'm
That's
certainly not doing it for money because if I was, I would be doing that full time. I'm not.
yes.
I'm doing it because I love it and because I know it's helping others. Money is a. I mean, we all need it to live, right, and to prosper and all that. But it's not definitely not the first thing, and it shouldn't be. If it is, then you may want to reevaluate why you're doing it.
It's very,
So
very
we are.
inspiring, Roger. So, coming back to Piyush's question, Roger, So I think so. How did you get started into this? Like,
Yes.
what was that moment or time or incident or any story that actually has motivated you, inspired you to start this side, uh, you know, uh,
Yeah.
a kind of
No,
work that you're doing now?
if I think about, if I kind of connect the dots backwards, if I look at it that way, and then where it all began is, I'm an entrepreneur at heart, right? So ever since I was young, when I was 12 years old, I had a paper route. When I was 15, I mowed our neighbors' lawns and had a lawn mowing
Wow.
business and shoveled snow and did all those things to earn a little extra money, because we were not well off. So
Right.
that continued when I got into college. I started a T-shirt business. I ended up working for an NBA basketball player and his agent, doing apparel. I had my own apparel line, so I was always doing these entrepreneurial things.
Wow.
And then my mother called me one day, and I was on the other side of the country. She was in New York. I was in the state of Oregon. And she said, "Look," she said, "Mr. Stanton, your principal from high school, is expanding his business. You may want to reach out to him." So I did.
Okay.
And I was probably 20, 22, maybe 23 at the time. So I reached out to him, and he remembered me, and he says, "You know what? I'm going to fly you back to New York. Let's talk." So he did. I went back to New York. Ray, Mr. Stanton, as I call him, his son's name is Ray. They have the same first name, and Ray was there, and they liked, we liked our interaction with each other, and they said, "Let's do what we're doing here out there." So
Okay.
basically we opened a market, and we were in the, how do I explain it, the offers business, providing merchant discounts, if you will. So whether it was
Okay.
a restaurant or a hotel or an
Okay.
amusement park, we put these books together of high
Coupons
value.
like. Right.
Yes, and they were sold as a fundraiser by the schools.
Hmm.
So the schools would sell the books, they would earn some money so they could build a playground or whatever it may be, and then we brought in all the merchants. So it was a nice win-win. So when I was very young, I started working with them. I worked for them for almost 20 years.
Okay.
And
Wow.
Ray Jr. actually is my brother-in-law. So he introduced me to my wife, and we had this just wonderful, wonderful dynamic for a couple of decades where we were young entrepreneurs, growing businesses, had the fortune to sell a couple of businesses, and then work for the organizations that acquired us. And that's how I was able to move, through my career to work for these wonderful organizations. We got into software, so I was able to learn that technology. We got into payments, and I was able to learn that technology. So my path just went from that one phone call that my mother encouraged me to make, 20 years before. And then that kind of opened all kinds of doors, until
Wow.
I wrote my first book. That was the
Okay.
next piece of, I guess, the next tool that helped me open some other doors that I never thought
Okay.
would have been possible if I didn't write that book. And
Hmm.
that was about 10, 12 years ago. From then until now, I've worked for a couple of other organizations, but really started heavily toward writing my own additional books, and then more than anything helping others write their first book, because I know what it did for me.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting.
Really
So,
interesting. I think
how?
inspirational as well.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to know that story as well, because just 1.5 years back only, I also launched my first ever book.
Great.
So the book title is Superhero Next Door.
Wow. I love it.
Yeah, it's a
That's awesome.
self-help book. Yeah. So I would also love to understand your story, that how did you decide that I want to write my first book, and how was that emotion? I want you to get back to that situation when
Sure.
you, yeah,
Well,
please.
yeah, I'll never forget it. I was actually at a sales conference down in St. Petersburg, Florida, and this was about 2008. And I was it was a writer that I had come to like. His name is Jeffrey Gitomer, and Jeffrey
Mhm.
Gitomer is, they call him the king of sales. So if you're in
Oh,
any level of sales within any organization, you could read Jeffrey's books, and he gives you tips and ideas of how to overcome, obstacles when it comes to selling a product or service.
Right.
So he was offering a conference. I went down to the conference. It was called a boot camp, a weekend long boot camp. And he would talk, there are about 200, 250 people there in this big auditorium. And he said a couple of things that day that really stuck with me. And one of them was, he said this, he said, writing leads to wealth. And then he just paused
Oh,
and he would ask people around the room, what do you think I mean by that? And they said, well, Jeffrey, you've sold millions of books. It must mean you're going to get rich. He says, yeah, that's part of it. But what else could it mean? What else could writing leads to wealth mean? And so he got different answers from people. But basically what he was saying is that when you write, there is a wealth of everything that comes out of it. So a wealth of fulfillment for yourself that you accomplish the task of writing, the wealth of helping others on the other side that are reading your words that you may inspire them. And then of course, the wealth of, residual income that can come from writing or opening doors where you may earn income from another area that you may have never imagined just because you wrote that book. So that moment, it hit me like a lightning bolt that I absolutely needed to write a book. So I did. I went home and I didn't know what I was doing, but I said, I am determined to write my first book. So it took me about 6 months, 6 to 7 months. I wrote the book. I started looking for a publisher. And again, timing is everything. I was fortunate. I went to a trade show where publishers were. There were hundreds of publishers, and I connected with Entrepreneur Magazine. Entrepreneur
Okay.
Magazine was there. I told them my story, and they loved it, and they picked it up. And luckily, that got in all the bookstores, and it did pretty good for my first book. So that just, the spark of
Wow.
being at that conference, hearing it from one of my, mentors and someone I looked up to this day, someone who I eventually interviewed on my podcast. I mean, that's how all these dots could connect. That if you don't put
Superb.
yourself out there, if you don't, listen to the words that people are saying, if you're not aware and present, you may miss it. So if I wasn't paying
Yes.
attention at that time and I was doodling, I may have missed that. And again, it may have put me on a whole different path.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Roger,
I
one of
can
our audience, Saroj Vasa, is asking like book about what? What was that book? And
This was called, I have it right here. So in at that time, I was in the loyalty and rewards space.
Okay.
So as I
Okay.
mentioned, the software. So our company, we were building software for organizations like banks and retailers to manage loyalty programs. So currency, basically rewards currency. And so I wrote this book called The Power of Loyalty, 10
Wow.
Essential
wow.
Steps to Build a Loyalty Strategy. So,
And I think it is available in India on Amazon, right?
oh, it's sure. It's on Amazon. Absolutely. So, this was my first book. Entrepreneur Press actually was the publisher,
Okay.
and it was a wonderful experience. This was a business book, and I enjoyed doing it. But again, I didn't know where to start. I just kind of followed some other books that I liked, the way that they, laid them out, and then I just put all my thoughts down and got it done.
Fantastic. I can actually resonate with your every single word because I have also gone through that process. And as you described it beautifully, that writing can actually lead you to the wealth of accomplishment, that fulfillment. And I actually describe it like this, that if you are writing your first book, it is almost the similar feeling when you are having your first baby. I can definitely say that.
No, absolutely. And when you could hold that book in your hand, right, and say,
Yes,
this, I'm proud of this, so I know exactly what you mean.
absolutely.
Now, the challenge that I see with most people and a lot of my clients is that they think that there's this perception that if you write the book, it's just going to sell millions of copies. That
Yes.
doesn't happen. So you have to
Yes.
become your own advocate. It's like social media today. If you have a social media account and you don't put out a post, nothing's going to happen. So
Absolutely.
if you have a book and you're not talking about it, if you're not promoting it, if you're not proud of it, then nothing's going to happen. It's just going to sit on the
Yes.
shelf, and that'll be that.
True. True. Absolutely.
Sophie
So
is
I
saying
think
nice and logical name of book, Roger.
Tosif, now it's time to write your first book as well. Very
Absolutely,
long
man. I
pending.
mean, Roger, I must tell you that when Piyush was writing book, I was feeling like I was writing book. Because he was talking so much about it right from the time even when I think like when he designed his cover, and he of course asked us like what should be the color of the cover, and also he was so enthusiastic and proud about it,
Yes,
that and all the moments right from the time he started writing it to the time he published it, he beautifully shared this with his audience. And I felt like I was a part of that journey, and he interviewed me when I read that book. He interviewed me for that book, so
that's
it was
wonderful.
really really amazing. Yeah, and
No,
that
and it's
book is
wonderful
also
to hear
available.
because, and that's just it. And that's what I, so everyone's at a different place when they're writing their book, right? So you may have had your own inspiration to be able to do that. Everyone
Right.
doesn't have that, but the fact that you were so excited and proud every step of the way means that you put your heart and soul into that book, and
True.
that to me that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think your intention, like with what is your purpose of writing that book, that matters a lot. As you both of you talked about, like if money is the purpose of writing this book, then I think you're on a wrong track. Of course, money will definitely come into the picture because it's a byproduct of your passion and the book that you're writing.
That's
But
right.
the intent matters the most.
Totally. And when I
Absolutely.
interview people that want seek my help, I actually interview them because I only want to work with people that are not doing it for money. If you're doing your book for money,
Mhm.
I'm not the right guy, right? So I'm sure there's other coaches out there, but you're so right because it's so much deeper than monetary value. Writing a book, if you're able to bring out the thoughts from your mind and in your heart out to those pages, people will feel that when they read it. That's the most
Yes.
important thing. If you're only thinking about the money, then you're not going to be able to succeed in getting those words through that are passion, that people can learn from and be inspired by.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Roger, I wanted to talk about Kind Magazine, about like a little bit about that newsletter, like what it is all about, and how do you basically impact people via your Kind Magazine newsletter.
Yeah, so I'll tell you the story, and it's quite interesting because one day I had the thought of, kindness is such an important term, right? We hear about it. A lot of people are talking about it. I actually wrote about it in my last book, the importance of kindness in the workplace, at home, as a neighbor, as a friend. Kindness is a really big part of our lives if we make it. So, at the same time, I also was thinking of how can I honor people on LinkedIn that are doing so many good things each and every day, and I just started, and as a matter of fact, the first Kind magazine cover was a gentleman from India, Harsh Kumar, who I
Okay.
become
He's
friends
one of our best friend.
with.
Yeah.
Yes, so Harsh was so kind to me, going back a couple of years ago, and we connected on LinkedIn. We had some phone calls, and he says, "I want to help you. I like you as a person. I like your brand. I want to help you." And he did. He introduced me to so many wonderful people like you, and so he was the first cover of Kind magazine, and then it just it grew from there, and each week I just I kind of think about, okay, who's out there doing good things that I want to honor. Basically give them a little bit of a platform, to say thank you for what you do, and give them exposure to others that might be in my network that are not in theirs. So it's actually morphing into something even more than I anticipated. We're starting to do articles around the Kind magazine, and developing it into something even bigger than I originally thought.
I've been closely following that Kind magazine. I mean, and a lot of people who have featured on that magazine are very, very closely connected with me, and it has been able to draw so much of engagement as well. Like kindness is one thing that as someone said that kindness is a language that a deaf can hear and a blind can see. So I
Yes.
think
Absolutely.
a lot of people are
Absolutely.
able to connect with that. So it's an amazing thing. I would like to just take this opportunity to ask one more question, and then Piyush, I would like to go to you then. So Roger, you have interviewed so many people on your American Real TV show, like big giants from personal development industry to all the other, sectors. So what would be those two or three things that you found common in them? I mean, you would like to share something with our audience that may be helpful.
Well, I mean, I've interviewed such a diverse group of people from all over the world, as you mentioned, and I think there are common threads for sure. But I love the fact that everyone's an individual, and that's why our tagline is "Everyone has a story," because you are
True.
that individual person. But if I were to think about some of the common traits between those people that I've interviewed, it would be authenticity. You know, um,
Mm.
once you get into a conversation, as we are right now, and people get into their element, they talk in their authentic voice.
Right.
Sometimes we feel we're on stage or we're being interviewed, and I believe me, I'm much better today than I was in the beginning. You kind of get caught up in the moment of what's happening versus what you're actually saying. So that's what I try to do as an interviewer is I try really hard to get people comfortable because when
Mm.
they're comfortable, they're more likely to be able to share their
Share.
authentic story, right?
Yeah.
So through that, common things come out, and that's getting to the essence of how someone became successful, or how they overcame an obstacle, or if a tragic situation happened, what they were able to do to come out on the other side. Even if it wasn't a great thing that happened. Like I'm just thinking off the top of my head, I interviewed a gentleman who, for more than 20 years, he was in and out of jail. He was
Oh,
on
Oh,
every kind of drug you can imagine.
wow.
He actually talked about the police, as he called them, the cops in his
Oh,
area saved
ouch.
him. They saved him. They could have, they did put him in jail, but he's saying if they didn't do that, then I wouldn't have been saved. He may have
wow.
overdosed. So,
Wow.
so those types of stories that came out. I
Hmm.
think it's about how people really overcame whatever it was in their life um,
Hmm.
to come out on the other side.
Amazing.
Amazing. I mean, such a diverse perspective which we might have never experienced in our life, but definitely with the help of such kind of conversations,
Stories and
interviews,
experiences.
and
Yeah.
podcasts. So we are so much blessed to know through you that the experience of that gentleman. We also came to know this perspective. Thank you so much for sharing this amazing example. So, Roger, there must be a lot of people who want to write their first book, and I think you are the right person who can share some, tips or some advice to our audience. The very first question is why somebody should write. You already have explained it,
Yeah.
but why somebody should write a first book, or and how they can start, because most of the people have this misconception that it's a very lengthy task. It's not my cup of tea. A lot of misconceptions people have. So
Totally.
can you please throw
It's
some
like going
light?
to another planet for some
Yes.
people. Of course, I
Yes.
will keep my ears open now.
So here's the thing, right? So when you write a book, first of all, the idea of the thought, if you have the thought of writing a book, there's probably something deep down that's urging you to do it. There's a reason. So
Right.
again, I always think about this, that it, if you have that thought, ponder it, right? So why would I want to write a book? And you guys mentioned it earlier. Who am I doing this for? Is it for myself? Is it for my family? Is it for my audience? Is it for my career? So there may be many different reasons. So when I talk to people for the first time about them writing the book, these are the questions I ask. What why are you doing this? What's your intent? Who is your target audience? Why do you want to inspire them? So I ask all these questions because I want to make sure that they're thinking about it from a similar scope that I am, and that is really to share a story because I feel it's our duty. Again, we talked about this earlier with another example, but if we have knowledge inside our minds from our own experiences and we keep that and we never share it and we take it to our grave, there's a
It is an
lot of,
injustice.
yeah,
It's
there's a
an
lot of,
injustice. Yeah.
right, untold stories that never happened. So all that knowledge that could have been out to the world is not there. So we kind of start there,
Amazing.
right? That it's really about the people on the other side. You're not doing it for yourself. If you're doing it for yourself and your ego, then you're probably looking at it the wrong way. When I sit down and write a book, so like my last book, Build the Best You, I wanted to write this book
Will the
because
best you.
of all the different things that I've learned from others through my podcast and through my mentors, all the things that they talked about. And it's 44 steps really to become the best version of yourself.
Wow.
So why did I write that
Amazing.
book? Because I wanted to get that knowledge out to people, that things that have helped me. And again, you never know who you're going to touch. So it's really
Yes.
about breaking it down. And yes, writing a book seems like a complicated task, but it's like anything. If you don't look at it as a book, if you look at it as a project and say, okay, for the next 3 months, I'm going to focus on this project. This will be my project to write a book, to get it done. But the process that I encourage is to write a little bit every day, not to get overwhelmed. Write for 30
Hmm.
to 45 minutes a day, 1 to 2
Hmm.
pages. And if you do that consistently, at the end of the week, you may have a chapter done, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the month, you'd have 4 chapters done. So that's how my program is developed. It's around really having a very clear outline from the beginning. And that's where I help people is we do like a mind map or a story mapping session to
Okay.
flush out all the ideas first because the book's already done. In my opinion, when you have the thought of it, you can envision that book completed. It's
Right.
okay, so how do you re-engineer that to get it onto paper? It's like anything. It's like inventing something. It's like, coding software, whatever it is. You have the thought of how to do it. Now it's putting in the work to actually get it done. And then, of course, having it professionally edited and, having a nice cover and all those things that matter. But there's a lot involved with it. But at the same time, if you're willing to make the commitment, the dedication for, say, a 3 month period, I know anyone listening to this can get their first book done.
Wow. Roger,
Wow.
I just wanted to. So you both are the authors, and you're sitting on the other side of the river. I'm still sitting on this side of the river. So if I have to, cross that river, so of course I'm not an author, but I have certain questions and ambiguities within my mind. So as you said that you must be able to envision within your mind like the entire prototype and the book. So usually if I talk about being authentic and share with both of you, if I envision about writing a book, the first thing that first confusion that comes to my mind, okay, so how all the chapters are going to look like, what would be the topics, so how it would be entitled, and what would be the title and the entire chapters. And then, because of course I can write about anything, I can sit, I can think to myself, I can write about it. but
Right.
but over a course of time for next 3 years, what what would be those topics, and how this complete book look like? So can you solve that puzzle? Like, I'm
Sure.
sure this question and ambiguity would be
All
lying
the
with
time.
many people.
Yes, and it comes up all the time. So
Absolutely.
I think the best analogy I could give, and I try to give this a lot, is think about if you're building a house, right? So if you want to build your own home, what would your dream home look like? What would the entryway be like? What would the floors be like? What kind of decor would you have? What would the landscaping be like? So if you think about building a house, oh wow, yes, that sounds great. I know exactly how it would be, right? I'd have this kind of staircase and this marble floor and this beautiful kitchen and on and on and on. So, but that's nice to have that thought, but okay, we haven't started building the house yet. How are we going to get that house that you could envision, the beautiful mansion? How are we going to get that built? Well, we need to do some design work, right? We need to become
Yes.
that architect that could help. And so, we have to dig the ground, and we have to have our foundation, and we need these kind of walls, and the spaces are going to be like this, and then, we're going to have the plaster. And so there's all these components to building a house, that go into getting that house built. So it's the same thing. So if we break down writing a book into those, more simple terms, okay, I have this wonderful idea for a book, but I don't know where to start. Same thing with building a house. I don't know where to start. I don't even have any equipment, to make this happen. Okay, so I have to hire a firm to help me get this done. So that's basically where I come in, is helping someone think through all that. And some people could do it on their own, right? Which is wonderful. If you could do it on your own, absolutely do it. But if you can't, there are people like me that can help you
Mhm.
kind of go through all
Mm.
those steps, so that before you start building that house, the complete blueprint is done. You could look through those blueprints and know, okay, the bathroom's going to be here, the kitchen's going to be here, the family room will be here, the outdoor deck is here. So your book start to finish in that outline before you even start. To me, that's the most important thing, is to have a clear path before you start, so you could write a little bit each day, and not get that
Mm.
writer's block, because that
Yes.
that is very real if you don't have a plan. If you have a plan,
Yes.
there's no such thing.
True.
I think the
True.
plan, the clarity is actually helps you to over a course of time when you write things, it helps you to clearly think about what you need to write, and it's really helpful.
And I think it's you brought a very valid point. In fact, I also had my mentor who helped me to write my book, and it's very important to have someone with whom you can discuss, with whom you can have that conversation, because it's very very frequent that you will have those blockages, you will have those confusions. So the way when you are building your house you require an architect, when you are writing your first book you require Roger Brooks.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So Roger,
Yeah,
we are just
absolutely.
left with few minutes of the podcast. So this time we usually designate for our audience to ask questions. So we would like to request our audience who are watching us live, who have been patiently watching us. We have received a lot of comments. We have not been able to shout out. So please do post your questions for us, for Roger. If you have any questions with respect to personal development, writing your first book, or if you have any doubt, we have the
Yep.
right guy today on our podcast. So you post your question, and we would love to, get them answers. So
In fact, we
yeah,
have a lot
Piyush.
of comments on Facebook as well, because we are live on Facebook as well. So
Yeah,
today, I think it is one of those episodes where we are receiving a lot of comments, likes, and a lot of overwhelming response. So thanks to Roger once again.
My pleasure.
So Roger, one question is from Sophia. Actually, she is quite a young person in our audience, that she is asking that which book you will advise, because she has not started reading. So any specific book for a beginner, if you can advise.
Well, again, a lot of people have that same question when I talk to them. Some people have multiple books they want to write. So, really, what I typically talk about with someone like this for the first time is, what what excites you the most, right? What book, if you were to put a book out there, what is it that you're passionate about that you would like to convey? And
Hmm.
don't overthink it. I mean, people should know, right away, to say, well, I want to write about the business I'm in, or the type of work that I do, or this hobby that I have, or this passion that I'm
Hmm.
all about. So to me, I go to where your heart is, because when you're writing where your heart is, it's a lot easier to get the content out there, versus
Right.
you're forcing something that, I'm in this business and it's my day job and I don't really love it, but I know if I write a book it might help me financially. To me, that's not, maybe the best way to look at it. So I would
True.
say, go with your passion, go with something that inspires you, that would help inspire others.
Absolutely true. I mean, that's absolutely right, because that's what I also did, because I wanted to share my life story, my experiences with a concept of a superhero, because I am a crazy superhero fan. So I
Right.
wanted to merge my life experiences with the concept of superhero. That's what I did. You are absolutely right. I mean,
And I
that's
think
what
that's a
some.
great example, right? So that was something that you wanted to write about your life experiences. You love superheroes, and you were able to put that together. And that's
Yes,
right there. That's a wonderful example of how it can happen. So
right.
that's something you're passionate about, and you made it happen.
Yeah,
I think it boils down to the fact that no matter what you do in life, it comes down to the fact that what something what is that something that excites you and what you're passionate about, and based upon that, what's you define your purpose of life. And you know that purpose is the needle, wherever you do all the things and the activities of your life that reach and meet with your purpose eventually.
And think about this. What are you thinking about all day long, right? So Earl Nightingale said, "We become what we think about
what we think about.
all day long,"
Absolutely.
right? So what are you thinking about all day long? Because we all have that, voice inside our head that is nonstop each and every day, even when we go to sleep. We cannot turn it off. And sometimes it's annoying, but
Yes,
we know what we're passionate about. And what is that voice telling you all day long? That's probably a good idea of what you might want to write about.
it's something which you cannot hold within. You just want to express. You
Yes.
just want to shout out that this is what is going on in my head and I want to share. Yeah, absolutely. You are,
Yes, sir.
I'm
And Roger,
right, and I'm
we would like
actually.
to take your, of course, I have the social media profiles of you, like your LinkedIn. I've checked. I think you're there on Instagram as well. So we would love to share the profile links of you in this podcast with everyone. So if somebody wants to connect with Roger Brooks, you can connect with Roger Brooks on LinkedIn, Facebook, and as well as on Instagram. And of course, his books are available on Amazon, like a couple of books, Build the Best You,
So
and
Roger,
some of the books
how
on finance. You can just go ahead and order them.
how somebody can connect with you, or whoever want to enroll in your program, or how it works, like, can you
Yeah,
please talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do, and you can find it right on LinkedIn. Just reach out, and what I do is I schedule a brief call with people. So
Oh,
typically a 15-minute call. We'll talk about your ideas, what you want to do, see if there's alignment on both sides. Because again, you know, there has to be a good connection
right.
between the coach and the client, right? So that's to
Correct.
me that's the most important thing, is that there's chemistry. So we have that initial call, and if things
Okay.
sound good, then I set up a Zoom call like this. We go a little bit deeper. I show them my process and the program, and then if they're interested, we get to work.
Oh, fantastic. So
that's really
LinkedIn is the
good.
best platform where people can
I think
reach
there
to
is
you.
a Calendly link in LinkedIn. Somebody wants to book an appointment with Roger, they can go on LinkedIn profile, Roger's LinkedIn profile, and use Calendly to book a slot with Roger.
Yeah, so we really tell our audience that if you want to write your first book, as I already said, I already cracked that joke, that if you want to build your house, you require an architect, but if you want to write your first book,
You
then
need Roger
you
Brooks.
require Roger Brooks. So once again, Roger, thank you so much. It was just, we didn't even realize that 60 minutes have passed, and, like, we still want to
Indeed.
talk a lot of things, but I think this is going to be the first. We are not going to stop. We will keep on inviting whenever, of course, it's convenient to you, because we would love to learn. We would love to know many things from you, because you have interviewed a lot of amazing people, and we want to get some life advice from you. So
And not
thank you
only
so much,
interviewed, but
Roger.
of
Yeah,
course you have had so many life
yeah,
experiences, and it
yeah,
was quite enriching. You talked about your story, you talked about how you
yeah.
started writing your book, you
and
talked about how
and the
you
very
are helping
very
people.
first thing I'm going to do after this completion of this podcast is to purchase your Build the Best You
Oh,
book.
thank you,
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
thank you.
we both will do.
Thank you
Yeah,
both.
Roger.
It's been a pleasure.
Provided it is available for sale in India.
I hope. I hope.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It certainly is. And I appreciate your time, and it's just wonderful to connect with you both. And thanks for all you do, because if you weren't doing this, then we wouldn't be together today. But more than that, you have 43 other wonderful guests that you've had on your show, and I'm sure there's going to be many, many more in the future. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roger.
Appreciate
Have a
it, Roger.
great day. Yeah.
It's a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.